appreciated. I wonder if we can just, before we start things off, we want to obviously try to get some confirmation with regards to, whether this is truly happening, whether it's not. And of course, there was the White House press briefing that took place just this week as well. And we just want to play that a little bit for our audience to get a clear sense of what was going on then, answering questions then from journalists in the White House was Secretary Caroline Leavitt. Let's listen to this.
The president has shown support for South African refugees that are coming to the United States next week. Can you talk about what these refugees are fleeing and why this is a priority for the administration?
Well, the president has actually signed an executive order on that matter. My office can get it back to you, Michael. This group in South Africa has faced racial persecution. In fact, the government there has vowed to take away their farmland that they own. And so the president has talked significantly about this. As for further details on refugee claims and asylum claims, I would defer you to the State Department.
I wonder if I could get your thoughts on that, Professor Landau, just knowing the situation as it currently stands.
Right. I mean, as we know, this is going to happen. It seems that these people are scheduled to fly this coming week into Washington, D.C. This is clearly a fictitious kind of story, but it's an important story that the American president is telling himself. This has actually very little to do with South Africa and South Africa's empirical realities. It has to do with the U.S. president positioning himself as a savior of white privilege, of whiteness, of Christianity, and all over the world. He is seeing the persecution, the fictitious persecution of white people, of Christian people, as something that he needs to stop. And this is really what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, because one wonders, a refugee, according to, and wait for it, this is the website, USA for UNHCR, right? The UN Refugee Agency, ultimately in the United States, says that a refugee is someone who has been forced to flee his or her country because of persecution, war, or violence. Can we say that either of those really applies to South Africa and particularly the Afrikaner group in the country?
No, of course, refugee status is something individual states get to decide. So a state is free to grant that status to anyone they like. But it's very clear that white South Africans do not face particular persecution or even, the language is, a well-founded fear of persecution. They face many of the same problems that every South African faces: crime, unemployment, inequality, etc. But if you look at the stats, white South Africans are doing far better than almost everybody else in the country.
So, according to the Diplomatic International Relations Corporation, then DIRCO in South Africa, calling this unfortunate and undermining South Africa's constitutional democracy. Is this an undermining of our democracy?
Well, I do think it's the U.S. government sending a signal to South Africa and to the rest of the world, hands off white people. But of course, South Africa has not put its hands on white people in any particular way. So I don't think this is really aimed at South Africa for the most part. As I mentioned, this is about the U.S. sending a message to itself. And I don't think South Africa needs to worry about it. It's South Africa, its credentials, its constitutional credentials are sound. There are big issues, of course, but not issues of the kind that Donald Trump is talking about.